3:30 CBS. This is a really big game that we probably should have talked about on Tuesday.
Okay.
It is your Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah.
It is America's Nebraska Cornhuskers. Nebraska is a 2.5 point home underdog in this affair, Dan.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Nebraska.
Okay.
Week 1, bit of a slog. In Kansas City, they played the game in Arrowhead against Cincinnati. Other than that game, Nebraska has beaten Akron and Houston Christian by 127-7 margin.
Yes. What a story.
Michigan has definitely played a tougher schedule through 3 weeks. I don't think that's even debatable. They beat New Mexico on the road, or they beat New Mexico. They lost on the road to Oklahoma. And then they won by 60 last week against Central Michigan. So
yeah,
there's that. We, I think, know a little bit more about Michigan. Should also point out that Michigan will be without Sharon Moore in
Correct.
this game. Still suspended due to the sign stealing thing. It's going to be Biff Poggi filling in as the interim coach. As I said on the recap episode last week, we had a handful of people write in and say, hey, Michigan looked better without him.
Yeah.
We're cool with that. Take that, do whatever you want with it. All right. I don't know if that's going to hold up against a team like a Nebraska or not, but they did win by 60. They did look pretty good. If you're a Michigan fan, you feel pretty good about that.
Yes.
We often frame up these previews in terms of which team has more pressure on them, especially in September. I don't think there is any question about this one. The weight of the world is on Nebraska in this spot, is it not?
Agree.
For one, it's Matt Rhule. It's Matt Rhule year 3, which comes with the expectations. Have you looked at this schedule for Nebraska beyond this game?
It's not that bad, right?
Like, I have a really bad habit for putting the cart before the horse and pumping a little too much sunshine into what's possible for some of these teams. But
right.
After Michigan and after the bye week for Nebraska, home against Michigan State, on the road at Maryland, on the road at Minnesota, home against Northwestern. You beat Michigan here, there's a very good chance you're going 8-0 headed into a big game first day of November at home against USC.
Agreed.
The aforementioned USC Trojans.
Yeah.
So there's a lot riding on this one from the Nebraska Huskers, Dan. Who you got?
I'm going to take Michigan. And
why? Come on.
It actually goes against one of my central picking tenets, right? What we think is a good defense at home as an underdog in a tough place to play. I've just seen it from Nebraska before that they can lose this game, the way that they lost like the Illinois game last year. Last year's team is not this year's team, of course. I don't trust Nebraska's offense. I just don't. I have to see it perform against a good team before I can say, yes, I am a believer in this team's ability to score 30 points against a quality defense. Have we seen that?
No, but I can play it the other way.
Of course you can.
I could say, what have we seen from the Michigan offense against better teams, better defenses, that leaves you feeling reassured that they can do anything against Nebraska here on the road?
I agree. My problem is we've seen Nebraska. This is third year of Matt Rhule, and we've kind of understood the rhythms of this team, that they'll put a bunch of points on flawed teams and still haven't been able. Maybe it's this week. Maybe it's this week where they figure it all out. I just think we have more data and disappointing data about the Nebraska offense that has me worried about Nebraska in this specific spot. That we know what Michigan's going to try to do, that they're going to try to run to set up play action. We know Michigan doesn't have game-changing receivers week in, week out. But there is something to me about like picking against Dylan Raiola against what should be a good defense, especially up front. You saw that they were showing heavier stuff that they were getting ready to employ against Nebraska last week, and it was Central Michigan, whatever. But I don't know, man. I'm not on a trusting plane with Nebraska's offense right now. And part of what has me a little bit encouraged about Michigan is the quotes after Oklahoma and after Central Michigan from Biff Poggi were sort of like, we were trying to shorten the Oklahoma game. We didn't want Bryce Underwood to run. We wanted him to get that experience and not, put too much on his plate. And now that we've been through that, we realize we need to just let it rip.
Well, and there's
that
some validity
has me
to
a
that.
little bit. Maybe look, I'm gullible. Maybe I'm buying in too early on Michigan, but that has me going a little bit.
Well, what I saw kind of in retrospect now, and I think I talked about it at the time as well, I think what we saw a little bit in that Oklahoma game is what we saw a lot of in, say, the Notre Dame-Miami game.
Yeah.
New quarterback, coaching staff unsure how much they could put on his plate, unsure how he would respond in hostile territory. And I think in both cases, now obviously Notre Dame lost and so did Michigan, but with respect to CJ Carr, with respect to Bryce Underwood, in neither case was the guy rattled by the situation. It seemed as though, even though the stat line for Bryce Underwood didn't really work out against Oklahoma, just 9 for 24.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like the moment was too big for him. He didn't seem overwhelmed being there. It seemed as though, even though he was in hostile territory, he looked fine. He could handle it. They need to get better around him, and clearly it was a pretty good defense. But all being said, I thought acquitted himself fairly well, just composure-wise, being that QB1.
Right.
So that, I think, is an interesting wrinkle that's obviously very, very hard to game plan for, and in our case here, hard to preview, because we just don't know what version of the Michigan offense we're going to see. I think the formula for Nebraska is going to be a lot of what we saw against Oklahoma.
Okay.
And what we saw Oklahoma do against Michigan was they basically sat on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had one long run from Justice Haynes. We had one long pass to Donovan McCulley. But otherwise, there was no real pop. Now, Michigan can try to change that. And if they do change that, obviously this all goes out the window. But I think you try to stop the run. I think you try to put this one more on the arm of Bryce Underwood. Eventually, he could be a first-round quarterback. We didn't really see that against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But I think if they try to make a little bit more hay through the air, Michigan will be better for it. How that works out against another good defense on the road remains to be seen. But at least based on what we have seen so far, take the run away, sit on them, try to force, everything to go through Bryce Underwood. That's probably the cleanest path through to victory.
By the way, speaking of runaway, you are threatening to run away from it all and move to the south of France with one particular run defense pet stat, correct? You picked Illinois, Indiana based specifically on this one run defense stat.
Yards before contact?
What is Nebraska's?
I don't
What
have
is
it
their
in front of
rank?
me.
You ready
Do you
for
have
it? 122nd.
Wow.
So, look, maybe that Cincinnati game, it's game one. It's in an NFL stadium. It was just a different kind of feeling on an NFL field, and they weren't ready to fill gaps and fit runs. Like, fine. It's not great. It's not great early on. This run defense, if that's what is, job number one against this Michigan offense, it hasn't been incredible in the limited data set that we have.
Yeah, and the catch is, can Nebraska do that?
Right.
Can they do it as effectively as Oklahoma did? And to your point, I'm not sure. Like, my question coming into this season was whether or not the Nebraska defense would take a step back with a new coordinator, with a line to me that looked a little bit worse. And yeah, some of those early stats kind of back up that concern.
Yep.
So I don't know, but that's kind of my thinking at the moment. One way or another, I think we're headed for a rock fight with this one. I think it's something in the neighborhood of like 23-20. I like Nebraska. I like the quarterback and defense combo a little bit better. So let's go Nebraska plus the points. Let's say Nebraska home dog of the week.
Wow.
The Yakos home dog of the week.
Okay.
I'm going to go Nebraska outright here, 23-20, but I think it's close. And honestly, the way that I am presenting this is assuming a lot.
Yeah.
I am not convinced that Nebraska can go out there and stop the run as effectively as Oklahoma. And I am also not convinced we're going to see the same version of Michigan that we did against Oklahoma. Maybe they do open it up a little bit more. There's a lot of assumption going on here on this side of the show that could definitely come back to bite me, but I'm going to say Nebraska outright.
Michigan 27-23.